Hi, Charles SirBookSage here with another Winds of Winter theory video. This is a fun one I've been thinking about for quite a while now. And I'm going to discuss who I think is going to die in the Winds of Winter. Because we only have 2 books left in this A Song of Ice and Fire series. And Book 5, A Dance with Dragons, ended with there still being 19 POV characters running around in Westeros and Essos and stuff. So I can't imagine there's any way we're still going to have anywhere close to 19 POV characters still alive at the end of the Winds of Winter. Because you have to start kind of bringing everyone back together and start eliminating characters to be able to end this thing at all. So today I'm going to go over list the 19 and then tell you which ones I think are safe, at least for this upcoming book, not necessarily safe for the overall story. And then the remaining on the list are the ones that I think are at the greatest risk of not surviving the Winds of Winter. Okay, now my list is over here. So, first up, we have Tyrion Lannister, Cersei Lannister, Jaime Lannister. We have Bran Stark, Arya Stark, Sansa Stark. We have Daenerys Targaryen, Samwell Tarly, Brienne of Tarth, Melisandre, Theon Greyjoy, Asha Greyjoy, Victarion Greyjoy, Aeron Damphair Greyjoy. And then we have Areo Hotah and Ariana Martell. And we have Jon Connington, Sir Davos, and Sir Barristan Selmy. Now, out of all of those 19 characters, here's the list that I think are safe, at least for the Winds of Winter. And that's Tyrion, Cersei, Jaime, Arya, Bran, Sansa, Daenerys, Samwell, Brienne, and Melisandre. So that leaves Theon, Asha, Victarion, Aeron, Areo Hotah, Ariana Martell, Jon Connington, Sir Davos, and Sir Barristan as the list of POVs that are potentially on the chopping block. Now, before I go through that smaller list and tell you which ones I think have the highest probability of not surviving the next book, we have to look first really quick at how Martin uses POV characters. He actually uses them in 3 distinctly different ways. Now, the first way is your traditional way, where it's the POV character, the POV chapters are telling that person's story. For example, Daenerys. So far through 5 books, as far as I can recall, Daenerys has yet to interact with another POV character. So her entire story, we've gotten only through her own eyes at this point. And I believe Arya, since the start of book 2, when she left King's Landing, I don't know if she's interacted with another POV character since either. But anyway, that's just your traditional. Jon's chapters tell us Jon's story. Arya's tell us Arya's story. The second way that Martin uses POV characters is he uses them to be the POV for major power players who aren't POV characters. For example, Robb Stark, his entire story from oldest son of Lord Eddard Stark to King of the North to his betrayal at the Red Wedding, that was mostly seen and told through the POV chapters of Catelyn Stark, his mother. Sir Davos acted for the first 3 books as our eyes and ears for Stannis Baratheon. Martin has been very deliberate in not only who he chooses to be a POV character, but who he chooses to not be a POV character. Like Robert Baratheon, Joffrey, Euron Greyjoy, all these characters, people who are vying for vast power or have vast power, or mainly centered around the Iron Throne itself. Martin has deliberately kept as non-POV characters. So a lot of these POV characters, they do like 2 jobs, their own story and that important character story. Now, the third way Martin uses POV characters is locations are almost POVs themselves. Martin has made sure that we've had some POV character at Winterfell, at King's Landing, in the Night's Watch, those 3 in particular. and he's added Marine to that list. And I'm probably going to do an entire video on just locations as POVs in A Song of Ice and Fire. Because the way Martin maneuvers POV characters on the chessboard to make sure he has them where he needs them in these places has been really well done throughout the story. Okay, so now on to our list. Let's start off with the character I think is the most likely to die, and that is Jon Connington. Old Griff, as we were first introduced to him in in Tyrion's chapters in A Dance with Dragons. And what's interesting is Jon Connington only became a POV character after Tyrion and the, Connington and Fagon parted ways. Because Tyrion was our eyes and ears, our POV for these people. And so Martin needed a character to take up that role, so Jon Connington was elevated in the second half of the later part of Dance with Dragons to a POV role to continue to be the eyes and ears for young Griff. Now, I do think he is the most obvious choice for chopping block. One, he's the character who actually has, was it grayscale? And I'm just curious to see if he's going to start an outbreak of that disease in Westeros before he goes. But the main reason why I think he's really on the way out is Ariana Martell, one of the other characters on this in this red list, red zone, if you will. She's on her way, sent by her father from Dorne to the Stormlands to try to find young Griff, potentially Aegon Targaryen. So once she arrives, Jon Connington's role as the POV character is redundant at that point and really no longer even needed. So I think once Ariana makes it there, establishes a connection with Aegon, Jon Connington will be not long for life after that. So I think he is my number one pick for not surviving the Winds of Winter. And next up is Sir Barristan Selmy. Now, Sir Barristan is currently playing the role of our POV, our eyes and ears in Marine. This is, I think, one of the big struggles Martin had trying to finish Dance with Dragons, is once Daenerys flew away on Drogon, he didn't have a POV character in Marine, and he struggled a long time to figure out how to continue showing what was happening in that city in Daenerys' absence. And I think he tried getting Tyrion there quicker and tried getting Victarion there quicker, and those really didn't work until he eventually realized the only workable way to do it was to elevate Sir Barristan Selmy to a POV character, which happened in the latter part of A Dance with Dragons. We expect Daenerys is going to return at some point in this book, and Tyrion is about to arrive. Victarion and the Iron Fleet are about to arrive. So we're suddenly going to have Daenerys, Tyrion, Victarion, and Sir Barristan Selmy, four POV characters all in the same place at the same time. We haven't seen something like that since the opening chapters of A Game of Thrones, Book 1, when 7 out of the 8 POV characters in that book were all at Winterfell. Now, I would like to see Sir Barristan make it back to Westeros before he's killed off, because there's just too perfect a setup that exists for Martin to not use, and that is Sir Barristan is, I guess, Lord Commander of the Queen's Guard for Daenerys. Now, the expectation is Victarion's Iron Fleet is going to be the fleet that brings her to Westeros finally. And Sir Barristan will arrive to discover potentially someone who's maybe Aegon Targaryen, Rhaegar's son, eldest son. And that's going to put Sir Barristan in a quandary. Does he stay loyal to Daenerys? Or does he betray her and give his loyalty to who he sees as Rhaegar's heir, Aegon Targaryen? Because I believe from the prophecies in the book, there's one more betrayal coming for Daenerys. So will it be Sir Barristan? I just can't see Martin like wasting the opportunity to put Barristan Selmy in that impossible position where he has to choose between what is now effectively two different branches of House Targaryen, if Aegon is indeed Aegon. So I'm hoping we get that dilemma before Barristan kicks the bucket. But I don't expect Sir Barristan to survive this story. And I'd be very shocked if he survives the Winds of Winter. So he's probably my number 2 most likely to die. Now, Sir Davos. Sir Davos has finally come out from under the Stannis Baratheon's fold. His role has been Stannis Baratheon's eyes and ears for the reader, until they got to the Wall, where we now had other POV characters available. That allowed Martin to take Sir Davos and give him personal agency, because he's sent off on a mission. And we know he's gone to White Harbor. I think that's the last we saw of him. And just a guess on my part, but I think Sir Davos is now caught up in what I call the North Remembers revenge plot, where the Manderleys and others are gearing up to get their revenge for the Red Wedding. They're out to get the Boltons and the Freys. And if you remember, Rickon Stark is up there somewhere. And I think I've read theories where they think he's on the Isle of Faces or something. And one of the theories is that the North might be ready to emerge rallying behind Rickon Stark. Because he is technically, as far as anybody knows, the only living male Stark, because none of them know Bran is alive. So he would be, at this point, the heir to the Winterfell. That would be Rickon's castle at this point. Rickon would be Warden of the North, in reality. So I could see, the Manderleys and others, emerging into the fray, no pun intended, with Rickon as even if he's a figurehead initially. And Sir Davos is the perfect character to be our POV person, to show us that whole subplot. So, as long as Rickon, if that is what's going to happen, as long as Rickon Stark is alive, Sir Davos is safe. But we saw what happened to Rickon in the TV show. Whether Rickon meets some kind of fate like that in the books, who knows? The show could have just killed him off because they didn't know what to do with him and didn't want to do anything with him. But for now, as long as that sort of revenge plot is in play, Sir Davos is safe, but it does put him in a very perilous position, because if that plot fails, Sir Davos is going to have his head cut off. So, next up, we have the Greyjoys. We have Theon and Asha Greyjoy, both of whom are currently captives of Stannis Baratheon. And I think, if I recall correctly, from one of the preview chapters of The Winds of Winter, Stannis has Theon chained to a wall. And Theon is basically half insane at this point, and gibbering and everything. But with Theon and Asha, we get an interesting perspective. Theon seems to be chained to a wall near where Stannis kind of holds court, if you will, and has his advisors. So Theon is our eyes and ears to those strategy and tactical discussions. And Asha is a prisoner in the camp, so technically she could be Martin's POV, our eyes and ears, to kind of maneuver around the rest of Stannis' camp, his army, so we can kind of get a look and feel for what's happening there. So they both have very productive uses as POV characters at the moment. And personally, I don't see Theon surviving the story, but I cannot imagine that Theon is not going to get some redemptive moment with Bran. So until Bran comes back, I think Theon is safe. I can't imagine Martin has put Theon through all of this just to have him get killed nonsensically here in this Winterfell thing. Though in one sense, I guess it could be poetic justice if Theon sacrifices himself for Winterfell to be retaken from the Boltons, maybe. But I can't imagine Martin would waste, again, that Theon-Bran meet at some point in the story. So I think, unless Bran shows up in this book, back below the wall, and that meet happens, I think Theon is safe. And Asha Greyjoy, I hope she survives. She's one of my favorite supporting characters in the story. I think her chapters are fantastic. So I'm really, really hoping she survives. Or, it's hard to say. I mean, we might see the end of House Greyjoy, for all we know. That might be one of the outcomes of this whole story, is there is no more House Greyjoy. But I do hope, out of all of the Greyjoys, Asha survives. Though, again, no idea where her story is going. She's with Stannis' army, so her fate is kind of in the hands of Stannis and his soldiers. And then we have Victarion Greyjoy. One of the biggest crimes of HBO's A Game of Thrones was not having Victarion Greyjoy on that show. He is such an absolute joy of a character because he's so over the top. He's a character that should not work, but Martin writes him so well. He's just, you just enjoy every moment that guy's on page. And again, it seems obvious he's going to be the one that transports Daenerys and her armies, the Unsullied and Dothraki and everyone, over to Westeros. Now, I think once they get there, he's going to do something stupid and he's going to try to take on Euron, and Euron's probably going to kill him. So once he gets Daenerys to Westeros, Victarion really isn't needed anymore in terms of any type of plot vehicle. So I think once that happens, Victarion's days are numbered. So it's just a matter of when does that happen in this book. That might be the finale of this book. So if it's the finale of the book, then obviously Victarion won't die in this book. He'll probably die early in the last book. But if Daenerys comes back and they land in Westeros maybe midway through this book, then I think we will see the end of Victarion before the book's over. So it's really all about when that main event of Daenerys coming to Westeros takes place. But I do think Victarion's a gunner after that happens. So that leaves Aeron Damphair. Now, from the insane preview chapter, Aeron's preview chapter of Winds of Winter, where he's tied to the mainmast of the Silence, Euron Greyjoy's flagship. And if you haven't read that preview chapter, it's one of the best chapters ever written in a fantasy book, in my opinion. And Euron Greyjoy is terrifying, absolutely terrifying as a character. I enjoyed emo Euron on the TV show for what he was, but that character is nothing like the book character. And right now he's Euron's POV. He's Euron's eyes and ears. So until Euron comes across another POV character in this story, Aeron is safe. However, Euron is sailing his fleet to sack Old Town. I believe that's where we left off, where he's going to sack Old Town and the Citadel. And we have a POV character sitting there in Old Town at the Citadel, and that's Samwell Tarly. So I really hope Samwell Tarly does not find himself in the clutches of Euron Greyjoy. There's no way, I cannot... the most shocking death in this series, if it occurred, would be Sam. Because I can't see George... Because Samwell Tarly is George's Sam Gamgee. I cannot see George doing that to his own Sam Gamgee. So, but that doesn't mean he won't torture the crap out of him, even if he survives. So if Samwell Tarly is captured by Euron, then Dampire's done, I think. But if that doesn't happen, if Samwell is able to get out of there before Euron finishes sacking Old Town, then again Euron would remain the POV. He'd stay alive. I kind of see Euron and Cersei eventually hooking up in some capacity, though the show has Cersei on the throne, which, I don't know, it seems more sense to me that Cersei, once Tommen dies, Cersei won't have any realistic political power in the city anymore and would be forced to flee to Casterly Rock for her own survival. And I could see Euron going up there and then making an alliance of some sort. But anyway, I'm getting off topic here. But again, right now, Aeron Damphair is our lone POV for Euron Greyjoy. So I don't expect Euron to die in the Winds of Winter. I expect he's going to die, but probably not until the final book. Again, that really brings us to those main non-POV characters. Euron Greyjoy, Stannis Baratheon, and Aegon, potentially, or Fagon, whichever one he happens to really be, young Griff. And then we have the potential emergence of Rickon Stark as an important non-POV character. We still have Doran Martell as a major non-POV character, even though that's what Ariohota's chapters are for. Now, in the show, they kill off Doran and Ariohota. So whether that happens in the story as a whole or this upcoming book, I don't know. Right now, Doran is probably, I don't know if he's vulnerable there, where he is. It's really hard to say. But again, Ariohota is going to stay around as long as we need a POV in Dorne, which a POV for Prince Doran Martell, specifically, but in Dorne in general. So what did I do here? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 POV characters that are on the chopping block. And I think I have 1, 2, 3 that are goners in this book. And I can't imagine that only those 3 people are going to die. There's probably going to be some shocking deaths that we're not expecting. This is not easy. Because, again, we don't know what Martin's overall plan is. We don't know what Martin's overall plot is and how he's going to accomplish the things he needs to accomplish in his story. So he has said that he does not plan to have any more additional POV characters. Now, that doesn't mean there won't be, but if there is, it will only most likely be due to him needing to elevate an existing character to POV just to be able to tell a particular event properly, which is what he's had to do with Jon Connington and Sir Barristan. Now maybe Connington was always planned to be a POV character, but I don't believe Barristan was. I think that was just out of necessity. So yeah, I don't think I really made any real progress on this topic. But again, I can't see any of the existing Lannisters dying in this next book. I think they're all going to die, except maybe Tyrion will survive. But I do think Cersei and Jaime are not going to survive the whole story. I personally would love to see Jaime, if we still have a Night's Watch at the end of this whole story, I would love to see Jaime as the Lord Commander of the Night's Watch. You know, I think he'd actually be a really great fit for that role. But we'll see. Now, you may say, well, the last we saw, Brienne and Jaime were on their way to Lady Stoneheart. So why would I think that Jaime's going to survive this book? I think Lady Stoneheart wants Jaime to go do something for her, like to recover Robb Stark's bones from the Freys. I think that's what she intends to do with him, like to give him that choice, like, I can just kill you now, or you can go and do this mission, something like that. So, we'll see. But anyway, yeah. Yeah, did I accomplish anything with this video? I don't know. I think about all I accomplished was Jon Connington's a goner in the Winds of Winter. That is my definitive declaration here. And Sir Barristan Selmy as well. I think both of them are done before this book is over. And again, depending upon when we get Daenerys to Westeros, Victarion as well. So I'm going to go with those three. Sir Davos. No. Sir Barristan, Jon Connington, and Victarion Greyjoy, I think, are definitely goners, which will bring us down to 16 POVs, but then Jon is to be resurrected, and you expect he'll continue to be a POV. So now we're back up to 17. So, again, I can't think that we're only going to lose 2 to 3 POV characters. It's got to be more than that. And it really depends on those non-POV characters, because they determine a lot of the fate of a good chunk of these POV characters. So, did I accomplish anything? Let me know in the comments down below. Who do you think is going to live, or who do you think is actually going to die in the Winds of Winter? What do you think about my main 3 choices? Connington, Selmy, and Victarion. And what about Stannis? See, I cannot at all believe that Stannis would lose a battle to Ramsay Snow, or Ramsay Bolton now. I just don't see it. I mean, Stannis, we like him or hate him, is one of the best military commanders in Westeros. He's someone you do not want to go to war with. And he's just stubborn. And it could be his stubbornness that does him in, which is possible. Because the winter is beginning to arrive. And the winter could kill you up there. Those are my predictions. Probably way off. I still think a hell of a lot more of these characters are going to die than just potentially those 3. I want to hear from you in the comments. Let me know your top picks for who you think is not going to survive the Winds of Winter. And I am Charles SirBookSage. Happy reading.